Hello everyone and welcome to this session. So today I'm going to talk about IIM Kozhikode's admission criteria based on CAT 2025. So this will be for the upcoming MBA batch, that is 2026 to 2028 batch of IIM Kozhikode. So before I start with all that, I want to first and foremost talk about IIM Kozhikode in general. As you would know, this is one of the old IIMs of India and it has a rich legacy of more than 2 decades. And in the last 2 to 3 decades, it has made a name for itself across the planet, especially among the corporate world. And today, this is surely regarded as one of the dream destinations for any management aspirant across the world. And this is thanks to the extraordinary teaching that takes place over there, amazing placement opportunities that come across for the students to grab, and of course, the sheer power of the brand value that they have created for themselves. So let's try and understand how will they be selecting students for the upcoming batch of their MBA program. So to start with, let's understand what this admission process looks like. So first and foremost, they will be generating a preliminary shortlist. Now don't get confused with this term. Here I have used the term preliminary shortlist. Here preliminary shortlist is not the same as interview shortlist. Preliminary shortlist will be created by keeping in place minimum eligibility criteria. So those students who qualify, who meet this minimum eligibility criteria, they will move ahead and they will qualify to be considered for shortlisting for personal interview. If you don't meet minimum eligibility criteria, then you are directly out from the process. And those who qualify, they will proceed and they will undergo the shortlisting criteria. And once they meet that criteria, they'll be invited for written ability test and personal interview. And after that, the last and final one, which is the final selection of candidates, will take place. So it's a 3-stage process that they have kept in place. All right, let's understand each of those stages one after the other. So to begin with, let's start with minimum eligibility criteria. So first and foremost, IIM Kozhikode clearly specified that only those candidates will be considered who have secured a positive score, that is greater than 0 score in all sections of CAT 25. So just in case somebody has scored 0 or less than 0 in any of the sections, then they will not be participating in this process. They will be eliminated from this process. So that's the first and foremost criteria. The second criteria you have to bear in mind is that the candidate should have secured a minimum of 60% marks in the graduation. And remember, this rule applies for all the applicants irrespective of their reservation category. And the third criteria is meant for those who have not done their regular graduation, instead who have become eligible for the process because they have done their chartered accountancy, or they have done CMA, or they have done ICW, or they are a company secretary. For them, the rule is they should have secured a minimum of 50% marks in these professional courses. If they have less than 50% marks, again they are eliminated. They will not proceed in the admission process. So this is the first set of minimum eligibility criteria. Now, if your question is, sir, will this be the only minimum eligibility criteria that they have kept in place? Not really. Apart from this, they also have a minimum eligibility criteria for your CAT performance as well as your 10th and 12th percentage of marks. Let's have a look at that aspect. Now, as far as CAT performance is concerned, what IIM Kozhikode has done is they have obviously divided people based on reservation categories. For example, for general category, the requirement is 60% marks. Or 60% score overall in CAT. So 85 percentile is the requirement for general category applicants in the CAT exam. As far as sectionals are concerned, every section they should have secured a minimum of 75 percentile. Apart from that, 10th and 12th minimum percentages will be 60-60 in both 10th as well as 12th. Now, coming to OBC or EWS, they will have the same criteria of 75 percentile minimum overall in CAT and 65 percentile in each of the sections. 10th and 12th requirement will be same as general category, 60% each. Moving on to SC applicants, 65 percentile overall and 55 percentile in every section, with 55 percentile in both 10th and 12th. Finally, ST or differently able candidates, it will be 55 percentile overall, 45 percentile sectionals, and of course 55 percentile needed, or 55% I should say, 55% marks minimum needed in your 10th and 12th. So this is the minimum eligibility criteria that you need to qualify. So keep in mind, just to refresh your memory, you have to score a minimum of at least positive score in every section of CAT exam, and in graduation you should have secured a minimum of 60% marks. If you have done professional courses that I have mentioned over here, you should have secured a minimum of 50%. In addition to that, you need to cross these minimum percentile requirement in CAT and minimum percentage requirement in 10th and 12th. Now, all the students who have applied to IIMK in CAT 25 application form and who have met this minimum criteria that they have kept in place, what IIM Kozhikode will do is they will send them an email, and in that email, there will be an invitation to fill up an online registration form. Only those people who have filled up this online registration form, they will be considered for the shortlisting process for personal interview round. If you don't fill up that registration form, again you are out from the process. So it's compulsory. If you receive the email from IIM Kozhikode, make it a point to fill it up at the earliest before the deadline that they specify as such. And remember, this email that you will receive from IIM Kozhikode, do not misunderstand it to be interview call. It's not an interview call. It is just that you have cleared stage 1 and you have become eligible to be considered for stage 2, which is actual shortlisting for personal interview. Now, if you get that email and if you fill up the details, then the shortlisting for personal interview will happen. Now, what will be the criteria over there? Let's understand that. So, for generating an interview shortlist, what IIM Kozhikode will do is, they are going to give 50% weightage to your CAT performance. 50%, I'm sure you would agree with me, it's a big percentage. So, 50% to your CAT performance. Then, your 10th class performance will be given a weightage of 15% and your 12th class performance will have a weightage of 20%. If you notice something very interesting, here graduation is not being considered. So those of you who are watching this video, some of you may have got low graduation percentage. You might have just barely crossed 60%, for example. That way, you are absolutely safe because you have cleared the minimum requirement of IIM Kozhikode in graduation, and graduation is not a criteria over here as such. So that is something to cheer you up as such. And one more interesting thing that IIM Kozhikode has mentioned is, because of pandemic, because of COVID-19, some students might not have got allocated their 10th marks, or for that matter, 12th marks. If that is the case, then what they will do for those people is this. For example, let's say you don't have your 10th percentage because of pandemic, they have directly passed you. Then what IIM Kozhikode will do is, they will give this 15% weightage to your 12th performance and your CAT performance in the same proportion, right? Proportionately, they will distribute it, and that's how you will be getting those marks. Same rule applies for 12th. Just in case you don't have 12th, then the same 20% weightage proportionately will be divided between CAT and class 10 percentage. That's how it will be calculated. Now, apart from that, to encourage diversity in their batch, IIM Kozhikode has announced 10% weightage, which will be gender diversity weightage. Gender diversity basically means those 10% marks will be given to all female applicants and transgender applicants. And then 5% weightage will be given to all non-engineering background applicants. Now, mind you, if there is a girl, for example, who is a non-engineering background girl, she will not get 15% marks. So they have kept a cap at 10%. So a girl who is non-engineer, she will get 10%. She will not get 15%. That is something that you have to keep in mind as such. Now, apart from this, work experience will have a score of 5%. One interesting point to notice here is, IIM Kozhikode, because they are giving you one more form to fill up, right? After you have cleared the minimum eligibility criteria, when you get one more form to fill up, in that form, they will ask you to update your work experience till 31st of December. Remember in CAT, you had filled up your work experience till 31st of July. I hope you remember that, right? So as far as IIM Kozhikode is concerned, they are asking you to update your work experience till 31st of December, and that work X will have a weightage. So this is how they are going to shortlist people for interview round. Now let us understand that the personal interview and written ability test, it will play a major role. I'm going to share with you the weightages for these rounds after some time. But for the time being, let's understand how they will going to conduct it. So they have clearly announced that it will be an offline process. It won't be online. It will be an offline process. And they plan to conduct these rounds in cities of Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Kozhikode, Mumbai and New Delhi. So these are the locations that they have decided, and the entire process probably will take half a day. So you may be allocated either a morning slot or an afternoon slot, and during this process you need to write an essay. When I say the written ability test, it is nothing but essay writing, and it will be followed by a personal interview. The topic for essay will not be given to you in advance. It will only be announced at the location. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. And I would like to emphasize, the moment you receive your first interview call, join T.I.M.E.'s GWPI program, because WAT and PI can be a deciding factor between you getting a final admit and not getting one. Now, let's understand how the final selection process will be carried out. So in the final selection stage, your CAT performance again plays a good amount of role. It will have 35% weightage. And as I was saying earlier, personal interview and WAT are very important. So personal interview also has 35% weightage, and WAT also has a considerable 20% weightage. So these will make a huge difference, ladies and gentlemen. Now, apart from this, they have something very interesting called resume. Resume, as you can see, will have 10% weightage. Now, I'm sure you're curious to know what exactly do I mean by resume. Do I need to prepare a resume and submit it to them? Will they evaluate my achievements and so on and so forth, or my academic marks, my work experience? Not really. That's not what I mean by resume. Let me explain to you what resume actually denotes. So resume will have only two aspects to it. This 10% they are going to divide in 5% blocks. One would be professional qualification. What do I mean by professional qualification? If you are somebody who has qualified, who has completed chartered accountancy, CMA, ICWA, company secretary, if you have done it, then you will be given 5% marks. People who have not done it, they are going to be given 0 as such. The second aspect of this would be professional certification. Professional certification refers to CFA. So if you have done either level 1 or level 2 or level 3 of CFA, then you will be given 5% weightage. So 5% for clearing any of the levels of CFA and 5% for having professional qualifications, which I mentioned earlier. That is what is resume out here. Right? So this is how resume of a candidate is evaluated. And that is how IIM Kozhikode will carry out the final admission process. Now, once they generate the list of candidates who have been selected, then they will be receiving the information and they need to pay the first installment of fees as such. So this is how the entire admission process will be carried out by IIM Kozhikode. One interesting point I want to highlight out here. If you notice, your CAT performance, interview performance and WAT, which actually accounts for 90%. So the controllable factors are 90% out here. And if you notice, graduation, the only requirement was 60% in graduation. Graduation was not a part of shortlisting criteria, neither it is part of final selection criteria. That means if your graduation score is not so great, it is barely more than 60%, you are absolutely safe as far as IIM Kozhikode is concerned. So friends, with this, I have come to the end of this video. If you like this content, please do hit the like button and do subscribe to our channel, because we regularly upload this kind of quality content. And do share this video with all your friends and family members who may also be aspiring to join this great institution. Thank you, everyone.